What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to episode 59 of the Maple-baum podcast. Mark, how the hell you doing, man?
I'm feeling fantastic. We had a very crazy, rowdy week in comedy, me and Jordan.
Yeah.
We'll try to get into that in a second. We can't really get into all the details. I'm feeling good because we have one of the pioneers of 209 comedy with us, Miss
Woo.
Rhoda Ramone. A name that's so fun to say you can say it over and over and over again. Rhoda Ramone. Rhoda Ramone. Rhoda Ramone. And the podcast starts right goddamn now.
Whoa! And we are live. And I agree, Mark. I think that name, that's a really cool fucking name. Better than Jordan Quattlebaum. God, I hate that name.
Real name or stage name?
Vegas. Rhoda Ramone. It's a stage name. Yeah, my real name is Ava. Yeah, but I have a really difficult last name, and so when I was in high school, I worshipped all of these like punk rockers. Do you ever read the book Please Kill Me?
I've heard of it. I never read it.
any movie star or rock star that I idolized had a stage name. So of course, when I was like a teenager, I was like, I have to have a stage name, and so that's where I came up with Rhoda Ramone. So anything that I've ever like written or anything that I've ever performed under is always under Rhoda. So I feel like I've had it just about most of my life at this point. But yeah. It would be too hard to be like Ava Villanueva for everyone. They were never able to say it right, or they'd always say Valenzuela or mess it up in some way. So I just thought Rhoda Ramone sounded so much cooler, so much easier to say. It was alliterative. It rolled right off the tongue. So it felt like it was meant to be.
Wow.
It worked. It works. It's better. I mean, there's some stage names that are like toothbrush. You're like, what the fuck? Really? That's your fucking name? Well, you're gonna go by toothbrush? What?
My first year in comedy, I didn't like. My last name's Quattlebaum. I went by Jordan Baum. I just got rid of the Quattle, and I started performing under that. And Ellis Rodriguez from Laughs, he goes, "Is that your real last name?" I was like, "No, it's Quattlebaum." He goes, "Why aren't you using that?" I'm like, because you can't say it. He goes, yeah. He's like, but you know how many fucking white guys are named Dan or Mike? He goes, your name's weird. They'll remember that. And he goes, just use it. And any single time someone can't say it, I just say, call me Q-Bomb, because that's my brand. And it's been working. I like it.
I'm making
and with all due respect, not a lot of comedians want to have the last name like associated with bomb. So Quattlebaum seemed to... probably work a little bit better.
And I think it's funny, in my opinion. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a great name.
Yeah.
The only problem with your name, because I'm making a flyer with Jordan's name on it right now for an upcoming show, his fucking name is hard to fit on the goddamn
I always
sometimes.
say this. If you can't fit my name, you could put the Q-bomb. Like,
that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, I'm okay with that, because
that's a good compromise.
It's a brand. It's the brand. Q-Bomb Comedy. Let's go.
Rhoda, you were one of the pioneers at 209 Comedy. Tell us how was the scene back in the day? What was going on? Who was in it?
Oh my gosh. Well, back in my day in the 1950s. No, I'm kidding.
I started, right?
Yes, all of those guys, all those ladies. Yeah. I've been doing stand-up now for about 7 years. So the scene, I think, was at a point, I would say the 209 scene was at a point where things were starting to pick up, because that's when I would say like the Deaf Puppies really started to come out and try to make a lot of the scene improvements and stuff. So it had been established and it had been around for a while before I came along. But I came along at a time when it was a lot harder to find and establish, because Sacramento seemed to have a lot more of an accessible scene of knowing how to navigate that and knowing like people within it. Mm-hmm. And then it wasn't until I started listening to podcasts for people in the Sacramento scene that I was able to find other 209 comics. And that was kind of when like the Deaf Puppies, like I said, were starting to come together and kind of try to create this scene, which was really cool because it provided access to something that seemed like really exciting. And so I would say that it was around that time that it was still a lot of like kind of excitement in doing these very non-traditional things, because I think the 209 is still in the same space as far as like something that's very unique about us, I think, is that we've always had to find ways to make it work because we don't necessarily have access to a lot of theaters, or the 209 is actually this really gigantic place, so it's not like you can just start from one end and be at another venue within like 15-20 minutes. Sometimes the idea of like getting from Lodi to Manteca, or even Fresno, can take an hour, 2 hours, that kind of thing. And so I'd still say it's like very unique in that sense. And I think that you guys would know that because you've had to create a lot of shows in like Poppy's Coffee, or I've seen that you've done it at the Hill House and things like that. And so I think that that's one of the most unique and coolest things about the 209. And I think if someone asked what set 209 Comics aside from everyone else, I would just say that is our ability to learn to work under so many different circumstances.
Yeah, it's like if there's a cool kind of venue and you can make it work and you can gather enough attention to it and you can sell it in a way that's different, then that's what I like doing. Because there's a gazillion bar shows out there. It's hard to get a theater going. It's hard to make some people sometimes like you at a club. So I always figure like, all right, well, what if I can create our own little crazy environment with our own comics, which I feel like we've been doing now as of late. I didn't want to do that when we first started, me and Jordan, like 3 years ago, because at the time we were terrible. So we didn't want to just put on shows.
You more than me, but yeah.
Yes, I was garbage. So I didn't want to be on shows or put on shows where I, as a comedian, was awful. I didn't know what I was doing, or I didn't know good comics. So I figure now it's like, I've been kind of hustling and trying to like create more weird shows at weirder venues. But the weirder the venue, the better. And if it's a good show at a cool venue, then everyone's happy about it. Like, what the fuck? You did this at a goddamn bowling alley, Like, like you said, we don't have access to all the amenities that over in Sacramento does, so we have to hustle harder and work harder, and we have to scrape and claw our way to etch out a name for ourselves. I feel sometimes so.
Well, there's two things to that, because as hard as it is, and it's sometimes like, I think the three of us all know that it really fucking sucks when you try something out and it does not work at all. Like, I'm sure that you've had venues where you're just like, we will never come back here. It was horrible. It was awful. I need to go home and just like sit in a fetal position for a couple of minutes. There's always that. Don't get me wrong. But
putting on a bad show feels like bombing times 20.
Right.
Well, I was going to say Finnegan's. Look at where Finnegan's is at now. When we first started at Finnegan, I think the worst bombs I've ever had has been at Finnegan's Bar in Stockton. And it's changed so much because we've all said, like, we've given up on it. We've all were like, if we go to Finnegan's, we're not even going to try at this point. We're just going to get on stage. And now, like, if you ask a lot of comics, it has changed. Like, I mean, if you give some venues chances and change shit, I think almost any venue could work. Depending on the atmosphere, the people, and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I think that is, I think it makes you a better comic, because what you're learning, you have to forgive me because I've just finished schoolwork, but you're doing these like experimentations, or like in business you'd say like innovation iterations or whatever.
Yeah.
And so when you're going to stuff like Finnegan's, you also have to keep in mind that you're coming, like, everything is post-pandemic. So you're coming in and saying, what's different? This is the exact same venue, sometimes the exact same people. What is different about it? And how do we ebb and flow to change so that we're also as successful as we were before? Because as you've probably been in comedy long enough to know that sometimes you'll go to a venue and it's amazing and great, and then you'll come back a while later and you're like, it's not the same. And you realize because like, oh, that really cute waitress that made everybody's smiles not there anymore, or the owner or manager changed. I mean, it sounds so. I'll give you one like great example. There was this one venue that I used to love to do open mic nights in, and I haven't done it in a really long time, but they did have a really cute barista who did a really good job at kind of like creeping around everybody and navigating everything and keeping the peace kind of thing, which initially you don't think twice about. And then she left, and the person that replaced her was like really loud, like really just kind of barging around everyone. You realize that like she just kind of created a little bit of this like chaotic environment that was not conducive to trying to do stand-up or working something out, like especially if you're bombing, which is so silent. And then you could just hear like the way that she sat down a glass seemed to be like ridiculously loud or whatever. So I mean, things like that are constantly changing when we're thinking about non-traditional spaces to do comedy in, which a lot of times in the 209 we're forced to do. And so I think as much as that can suck, or as much as we have to constantly be on our toes about watching those things, I think it does make us better performers, or it makes us better comedians, in the sense that that's just something that we're inherently always having to learn just to keep going with the flow. Whereas, not to disparage any other scenes by any other means at all, but I think always being in a place that's for comedy and for comedians and conducive to comedians, they never learn how to exercise those muscles.
Yeah.
And so they walk into a room full of drunk people and they're like, oh my, I can't do this. They're drunk and it's going to be blah, blah, blah. And you're like, obviously you've never been to Finnegan's, or obviously you've never like been at a rowdy room on a Friday night where nobody gives a shit about your daddy issues that you're trying to write a joke about or something, you know, like.
That's actually
me
a
and
good,
Jordan, the past week, we dealt with some really rowdy crowds, and there was one particular night where it all boiled over.
What happened?
I don't know if I can say. Let's just say.
Okay, we'll tell you off air.
Loose. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there was an open mic, a local in Stockton. First off, it was I had a it's amazing mic, one of the best ones in Stockton, in my opinion. I had a guest host it because the host wasn't there yet, and it happened to be the most rowdiest night. There was a lot of people, but there was like 2 birthday parties going on at the same time. Yeah. So I was like, screw it. I always learn, project, and just get their attention. And I got their attention, and it was fun. I had a great set. My throat was gone, though. I had to scream the whole time. So I had fun. Everybody was having a good time. And then as the show went on, it got louder and louder and louder to where the first few comics had their attention. But after like the 5th comic, no comic could even say anything. No one was like really there. When Mark got up there, you tell her.
I got their attention. I shouted at them, and I unfortunately mentioned the Raiders. Don't do that ever at a comedy show with drunk, crazy people.
In the 209.
Yeah, and then they all started chanting, Raiders, Raiders, Raiders. And I just wanted to get my last joke off. I got the light. I wanted to get their attention. So I bopped the microphone against my head a couple times, and I drew blood. And then I got the last joke off, and that was it. And then after that, a couple comics later,
so you traumatized the audience.
I riled them up. Kiefer told me, you're like Donald Trump, his speech before the insurrection. I unfortunately kind of riled them up, and then lesson learned. Rowdy crowds, am I right?
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to learn the hard way. Mm-hmm. Been there.
Oh, dear Lord, it was fucked.
What is the weirdest places you guys have performed? Speaking of which, we were talking about like weird, like we performed in coffee shops, cannabis club. I like. There's a lot of places. Like, what do you think is like the weirdest place you have performed at?
The weirdest place I've ever performed at is probably also the time I bombed that I think about a lot, that haunts me. And it was in the middle of the afternoon outside in the courtyard at this church during like what was labeled as like a global bazaar.
Oh.
And so it was like doing comedy in this open courtyard in the middle of summer where everyone's hot, following a band in front of a group of like people that were a lot older, like people that could be in like a knitting circle with my grandma trying to perform for them. And it was really bad. And it was just like these vendors surrounded the entire thing. So there was just stimulus everywhere. So people were like trying to order food and yell out their orders that were ready. And it was like so bad.
You're fucked.
It was really bad.
Yeah.
Wow.
There's some spots where it's just like, yep, I'm put in a tough spot right now. That sounds like one of them. I mean,
yeah.
That was the worst. There were some places that were cool that were unconventional. Like I did a barbershop once for the Don't Tell, and that was actually really fun. But everyone was there for comedy. So it's different if it's in a weird space, but everyone's there for comedy.
Yeah.
So it just depends.
I mean, I think one weird one, that happened last year. I performed for a cheerleading academy, and I was really nervous because I'm very vulgar and dirty, but they were awesome. And it was a full crowd. But I think the weirdest place was I performed for a cannabis club. I won't say where, but I don't think they knew I can't explain it. It was like a cannabis club where it was filled to the brim with people, and they had like a circle stage in the middle, and they had me and two other comics. But
wait, you did it in the round?
In the round, yeah. But they had a DJ. Everyone was dancing. And the guy's like, hey, gets the microphone. He goes, hey, we're going to stop the music and have these comedians come up. And everyone just goes, no, boo, boo. And I'm like, this is great. So we all go up there, and no one they were just all talking, just ignoring me, except for like two people. So I was like, whatever, I'm performing for you two. Yeah. And then it was like a garage door on this place. It was so weird. And there's guys doing donuts on their dirt bikes while I'm doing this. And it's like, there's no point. And then I was talking about my fiance, and this short little gangbanger guy comes up, and he just goes, oh, is your fiance hot? I bet I could fuck her out of nowhere. And I just go, all I said was, nah, man, she only fucks tall guys. And he threatened to shoot me in my face. And I'm like, that wasn't even a roast. It wasn't even good. I just said a little like, hey, you.
No, she likes tall guys. That does it, and I'm going to fucking kill you.
He was like 5'1" or whatever. He was hella short. But that was probably the worst, like, weirdest thing. It was like it was a cannabis club, but it was in like a parking garage. Like, you know those storage places? It looked like it was one of those, like, it was random. It was weird.
Weird. I never really thought about it.
$10 for it.
$10 a ticket?
No, I got paid $10 for doing.
Oh dear God!
That was like my first. Christ. That was like my first year of doing comedy.
$10 is so like 3 years ago. Like at least give them some. Fuck! Come on.
Well, as you could tell, they didn't want us there. So.
Right. You took the job though, anyway.
Oh, because I was like, they're gonna love it. Nope.
I think when you first start out, when you were saying like you know being horrible, everybody sucks when they first start out. The idea that someone comes out the gate that's great is so rare. I've only seen it like once or twice in the time that I've been doing stand up, and those people that come out great right out the gate usually have some other challenge that they have to overcome throughout their time as a comedian. But I mean, yeah, I've done that before. I'm just like, in the beginning, I would say yes to everything, even if it meant that I had to do it for free. But I mean, I've had those experiences too. Like, I did something similar for like it wasn't a cannabis club, but it was like a Christmas party for a dispensary. Oh. And anytime like you're walking into a situation where everyone wants to party and you're following music, you're fucked because they're like, oh, let's shut down everything and everyone sit here quietly and listen to these jokes. Yeah, and so, I mean, but that's the only way you learn to, you know, now if I'm talking to somebody about doing a show, I'm like, I'm not following music.
Don't follow poetry either. Yeah. Poetry's
a really?
Spot. Yeah, it's
just poetry just put everybody at a deficit, whereas if music's everyone's up here, then poetry brings everyone down here.
Well, imagine some very insightful poetry with some well-meaning behind it. And then out comes me, and I'm just like, hey, everybody, I look like my dad fucked my mom. And they're not going to like hearing that after hearing someone pour their heart out.
You're pouring your heart out, though.
It's what's that called? Like, iambic pentameter. They're like, that's not iambic pentameter.
I don't know what the hell
I want to read a dick joke in iambic pentameter. That's someone should write a dick joke in iambic pentameter.
Oh fuck
me! If I come out after like well-meaningly thought-provoking stuff, it's not. I'm off-putting. I'm already off-putting as it is. But if I come out to after poetry, like this one place I did called Dry Cleaners, the place said on there,
God.
a
Oh
gay
yeah,
and
I know dry cleaners.
it said on there a gay and black owned club, and I'm like, all right, let's just see how this goes. And I did their open mic, and they hated every word I said. And afterwards, I was like, well, people, you don't like me, but I love you. I wish you all continued success.
I would have been like, oh.
I just was like, well, I'm done.
Well, I don't think Mark ever got to do it. There was an open mic. They don't exist anymore. It's Blackwater. It's in Stockton. They used to have a musical and poets, like musicians and poets, and comedians started hearing about it. We're like, could we perform? And they were like, sure. And all of them hated us. Every time comedians came, the musicians were so fucking pissed. They did not like us because we started to bring people that wanted comedy, and then they hated the musicians. So and it started like all this weird beef, and then eventually they got closed down because of stuff. I don't know exactly, but it was always so funny because they would always like roll their eyes anytime any of us comics came in.
Yeah, I could spend some time pontificating about why that doesn't work, why the music before comedy doesn't work. And it seems that it's so funny because I feel like so many comedians are just people that wish they could have been rock stars.
Yeah.
Myself included in that. I totally would
love
to be it. But
wait,
I think part of
would you want to do punk rock? Would you want to do singing? What if you could? If you can throw away your...
Go ahead, sorry.
If you can do it, what would you do?
Well, I mean, if I could have been any kind of musician, I would. I just never had the music inclination. I'm a huge music fan. I love music. It's such a huge, essential part of my life. So I guess if I could do anything, even just to be like a singer or a rocker, I mean, someone that I think is like really cool is, do you know Saint Vincent?
Yeah.
Yes.
She's an example of someone that does like really cool rock music. She's an amazing musician, multi-instrument talented artist, but also has this really sexy, cool vibe, does a lot of cool artsy like costumes and stuff. Like that to me is an idea of like what it would be the coolest fucking idea of like a female rock star could be. And it's just like an amazing performer, But I think that rock stars seem to love comedians and comedians love rock stars, if you notice.
Yeah.
I've
noticed MMA dudes hate our comedy.
They hate comedy. But yeah. I think as people they love each other, but I think as like performing, I don't think that they mesh well together. Because poetry and music probably meshes well together because so many rock stars see themselves as poets.
Right.
But it's hard to, because then comedy is about being like self-deprecating, or you have to write like you could write a million highbrow jokes about politics or whatever, have these unique visions, but you're still gonna want to try to make people laugh with like a dick joke or fart and shit jokes in there too. Like you run the gamut of highbrow and lowbrow when you're doing comedy. And so I think that like the two don't exist well together hand in hand as far as being on the same performance night, because you have to adjust the way that you absorb that information as like a listener.
Jordan and Ramone, hilariously as you say that, I'm trying to work currently on the ultimate fart joke, and it's going to happen. I swear it's going to happen.
I believe in you.
I believe in myself on this. It's going to happen.
I was going to say that you say that about musicians. It's crazy because I've been to a lot of concerts, and what's funny is they always crack jokes while they're on stage too, which I think is kind of funny.
Yeah, they're always doing like a fucking mini step in between their songs. I always notice at these damn shows. They're always trying to get a cheap laugh and a fucking one-liner.
Like have you got on TikTok? Harry Styles is always fucking trending because he's always cracking jokes in the middle of his thing. I'm like, Harry Styles is actually funny. I think he could be a comedian if he actually tried.
Why don't you just compile all this shit and do a 10-minute set somewhere? I mean, what the fuck? I mean. Why not?
It's crazy that you say that.
There's a few.
It works out.
Another one is like my favorite is Jack White.
Yes.
And he's hilarious.
Yes.
He's so Julian Casablancas from The Strokes. If you just type in like on YouTube Julian Casablancas funny, they'll have like all these supercuts of just all the ridiculous shit that he says. It's just, I don't know, they could be really funny. I think it's all part of learning how to keep people engaged, you know.
That's a good point.
I saw this fucking clip of Adele in between her songs, and she was like quoting like Andrew Dice Clay, man. She was like,
"Oh, she's fucking hilarious too," and she just says some wild shit. Like if you listen to her just go off, it's pretty funny.
That's crazy. But what I was gonna say, you know what I think is the difference between why musicians do a little bit better at open mics compared to comedy is I think people don't care if a musician's there because that's background music. For comedy, we want them to shut the fuck up so we can tell our jokes. But if you're a musician, you're not going to care if people are talking or chatting because you're just there as an ambiance. You know what I mean?
The few musicians that talk to me about this comedy crap, they're like, well, I kind of respect what you do because they say that. We're just kind of on the background. If they don't like us, it's fine. Or if we make one slight mistake, that's fine. But if you guys do one mistake, well, you're in the forefront. It shows. It's like you guys just you're on the pitcher's mound. You didn't just throw it, you didn't just like not make a strike. No, you threw the ball into the fucking dugout and everyone saw that shit. So that's how it feels. If a joke doesn't land, we're just like, oh shit, that happened. Well, I got other ones.
There's this really great excerpt from the beginning of one of Joan Rivers' books. I don't remember which one it is, but she's basically just talking about how like stand-up is essentially just going out and bearing who you are to people. Like you're showing them a version of yourself, whether or not it's like a heightened version or whatever. Yeah. And that you're being incredibly vulnerable. And I think that that's slightly different too. Like I don't know many comedians these days. I used to know more. I'm not comedians, musicians. But I want to ask a comedian what their experience is like bombing, because I want to see how it compares to how it feels to bomb as a comic.
That's a good point.
Jordan, you want to go first on this? How it feels to bomb it out sometimes? I mean, not the same times, but when it happens, how does it feel? I'll say.
I kind of know. I kind of know what to say.
I'll say how it feels like you just didn't do your job, And I said it a second ago. It feels like you're throwing the ball into the dugout and people are watching you, and you just want to get away,
bro.
You're
like an old man that's like, hey, listen.
All right, I'll take off the fucking hats. Make me do all these fucking baseball references.
Whatever causes us to keep the conversation going, I say go with it.
Yes. Look, it's just when it happens, especially there's sometimes where it's like crowds. You're like, well, what's it to do really? Everything was fucked. I can do with the best I can do. But if it's there's been a couple of times it was a good crowd and I didn't do well. I was like, oh no, it's not their fault at all. All of it was just mine. I'm going to go in my car and go home now and go to sleep.
Go cry in the car.
That's how it feels.
Yeah, it's always easier on the nights you can be like, they just didn't get it. Everyone bombed.
Yeah.
And then there's nights you're like, nope, it was just me and I sucked. I earned that.
Yeah, I stopped blaming crowds a long time ago. Every once in a while you can, because you're like, well, I think they're just dumb. But there's been a couple times where I was just like...
Mark's at a KK meeting. He's like, I think it's the crowd. I don't know.
I'm not going to blame them. I mean, on other aspects, yes, in life, but not at laughing at my jokes. And everything else I will. I'll blame them for everything. But that's how it feels. Rhoda, how do you say? If it happens, every once in a while it happens, how does it feel for you?
You know what? Bombing's just part of it. So whenever anybody asks me about being a comedian or trying comedy, I'm like, you're going to suck when you start and you're definitely going to bomb. You have to get over You have to get over it. Just get over it. Everybody bombs no matter what. And so I take it with a grain of salt as much as it sucks, that I understand that that's just part of it. And that when I'm really like at a higher level of thinking, then I could utilize that to find out where I went wrong and how I can do better. Or like to go back to a baseball method, I'm sure after you have a bad game, you're like, where was I lacking? What could I improve?
Check the
next
tape.
time?
I gotta
Where
check
did
the
I go?
tape.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And so I try to be like a highly evolved individual and say like, how can I learn from that? Which I think gets easier the longer that I do it. But it fucking sucks. And there are times when you could just say like, I 100% was responsible for that. I didn't bring my A game. I sucked. It's really painful when it's because they just don't like you. Like one day I went up, everyone was doing relatively good. I went on stage and the first thing I did was like shit on a new comedian's girlfriend, not realizing that over half of the crowd was there for that guy.
Damn.
I think I know this story, and I got to tell you something off air, actually. But yeah,
really, okay.
Yeah,
And it was just like driving home. And this was like recently, so it wasn't like years ago. It was just like, nope, I still have a ton to learn, and that was not smart. That was really fucking stupid. I knew better than that at this point, and so I don't know, it just happens. But I guess the nice thing about getting farther into it is that when you first do it, you're like, they hate me, and you go into these like existential crisis, and you're like wondering what's wrong with you, and you get depressed. And now it's a lot easier to recover from it than it once was in the beginning. You definitely have to grow a thick skin, and it's always going to suck. I'm never going to be like, I loved that.
No.
But at some point you realize it's just part of it.
Yeah.
I hosted a show at Laughs Unlimited last year. I'll just say it. I bombed. I was the host. I bombed my hosting set. Mm-hmm. So, but I had to go back on stage a bunch of times to intro other comics. And I thought my job of that was pretty good, the hosting part, but my opening set, not good. But my lady friend that was there, she said that there was one person in the crowd, every single time I got back on stage, she turned around and looked at my lady friend and shook her head no.
Oh, no.
Just every time I got back on stage.
Oh, did she know that you knew her?
Yes.
That she was with you?
Yes. So she saw me hanging out with my lady.
She's like, I want him to know.
So she was trying to tell my lady friend, not with this guy.
Not with him.
Shit. That's ridiculous.
She was with her boyfriend too. So
she was like, I'm helping her.
Yeah, she's like trying to tell me based on my set that night to no longer be with me anymore.
Oh God. Did she take her advice?
She's still around. My lady friend's still around. But yeah, she hated my set so much. Not only did she not laugh at my shit, she wanted to make sure I was no longer with my significant other.
She wanted to ruin your life. That's how bad you ruined her night.
Oh, yes, only for 10 minutes.
Mark.
I only screwed up her life for 10 minutes, though. So it's not like, you know.
Were you there at Ghostlight when that thing happened with me and that lady?
I missed out on that. Yeah, no, that was a fun story. You know,
random topic, but there's this theater in Stockton. I don't know if it's still around. When it first opened up, there was this old lady working at the ticket booth, right? And us comics were signing up. And she goes, oh, are you guys comedians? And we're like, oh, yeah. And she goes, oh, okay, I'll love to see you guys. We're like, oh, thanks. So we all go up. And we all did relatively pretty good, right? Like, I didn't think any comic bombed their dick off or anything. I thought everyone did great. And we were leaving. And the old lady, she goes, oh, are you guys all done performing? We're like, yep. And she goes, yeah, I saw most of your guys' stuff. You guys fucking sucked. And we were like, oh, and I just started laughing because she worked
there.
She worked there and she was like 70-something. So I was laughing hysterically. But Manuel Martin, he's like, what the fuck you, bitch? And he just started going off on her. It was so funny. And he goes,
oh, God.
He had a point. She goes, I'm funnier than all you guys. I used to do comedy back in the day. Da-da-da. And Manuel goes, well, until you get on stage, shut the fuck up. Da-da-da. And I was just laughing so hard.
Shut up, lady. Come on.
So all that happened. Like 3-4 months later, they were like, hey, we saw you at an open mic. Would you like to host this open mic for us? And I was like, oh, sure. She came to sign up. And I was so fucking excited. I was like, she better fucking destroy, right? And I didn't say
that tight 5. Give us that tight 5, huh?
I didn't mention anything to her. I didn't want to like rub it in her face or anything. I helped her walk onto the stage because she was a little bit older, and she went up there and said the most horrendous racist shit and did not make anybody laugh at all. And then her last minute, she just starts attacking. She goes, "You know what? You guys just don't get comedy. Fuck all of you. Da 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 da. I don't come up here talking about my dick and like all these other guys." I don't talk about pussy and da-da-da. Fuck you.
Hey. When I did my jokes in 1969, all right, in Mississippi, they loved this shit.
So I helped her off the stage.
I blew Sam Kinison once. How dare you?
Yeah. Enough of your Jimmy Crow fucking comedy bullshit. Back in my day when I said this racist shit on stage.
I helped her off the stage. And I said, give it up for da-da-da. And then I literally I did 3 whole minutes just talking about pussy and dick. And it fucking did her amazing. And I looked at her, I'm like, I don't know, seems like the pussy and dick jokes work. And then she was just like, fuck, and she just left, and we never seen her again.
I'm going to take this opportunity to be the most fucking annoying person and get on my soapbox and say that experience is so close to what it's like being a female comedian.
Oh, wow.
That you constantly have to deal with people in your face being like, girls aren't funny, women aren't funny. This is why women can't do comedy. That is not true. And women are funny. Go up and see and it's always coming out of the mouth of the most mediocre assholes. And then they go up on stage and just do like really lame shit.
Masturbation, right? Balls.
Yeah, I mean that just that is so much, or probably a comedian in general. That's like a very similar experience, but like as a woman, I've had to deal with a lot of those guys being like, "You don't know what it is. You don't get it." Or just writing me off simply because. And I've seen that happen to other comedians that are girls too.
You don't understand our art. Now, if you excuse me, I gotta do 3 minutes on porn.
Yeah, or no one wants to hear your period jokes. And I'm like, really? Because they just heard like about 15 dick jokes. So
it really bothers me because, for example, I won't say who, but I had a comic come up to me, and they said, why do you always talk about your fiance? That's all you talk about. That's not relatable. I'm like, are you stupid? Like, people have, like, it's different topics. If you talk about your period, girls are going to relate with that. If you talk about, guys talk about their dick, don't get me wrong, it can be hacky here, whatever. But if you talk about a topic, people can relate with it. People have girlfriends and wives.
To the both of you. Is there, in my opinion, can you take a premise or a subject that can be classified as hacky and make it brilliant? That's why I'm trying to write this ultimate fart joke. Because I'm like,
I think you could write about anything.
As lame as it gets.
If you do it right,
If you can do it right and make it, creative, go for it. I'm sorry about that.
No, I was just agreeing that I think you could take anything. So you can even take a common, like, yes, you could hear 100 dick jokes, but if you hear a dick joke that's just crafted in a way that is so unique and different, then you're going to remember it and it's going to make you laugh when you're like brushing your teeth a week later. Like, you can take any premise. I'm thinking of like one of my favorite jokes is this Patton Oswalt joke called Physics for Poets.
Oh.
Have you ever heard of it?
I don't think so.
And it's literally just a joke about how he had to take a science class in college in order to graduate.
So the idea is very vanilla. The idea of
the joke. And just the way that he does it, and he crafts this whole story into it and punch up. Like, I mean, it's on Werewolves and Lollipops. It's called Physics for Poets. But when I'm thinking about just taking like a very mundane... and we have a lot of comedians in the Sacramento and 209 scene that are really good at just taking like the most random stuff and turning it into gold.
Oh my God, what was his name from Stab?
Shit. Drew Schaefer is one of the better like creative comics where he works totally clean. He just describes like stuff he does on a regular basis. Oh. And we always make fun of the guy because if you see him go on stage, you're like, this guy ain't going to be very funny. Look at him. But then he turns out to be one of the best comedians of the night.
Drew's
like
great.
Always.
It's because he knows exactly who he is and he plays to those strengths.
Yeah, yeah.
He goes on stage and he says exactly what you're going to expect him to say it, and then it just punches up in a way that like is memorable. Benton Hershaw is another one that I think is like really amazing at that.
Yeah.
Of just going on stage and being like, well, I'm pretty sure he's going to talk about something. You're like, yeah, he talks about being a white guy, but it's a way that's like totally unique and like authentic to him.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's just the whole, you could write about anything as long as you're saying something that you believe, because we all have seen comics go up there, you're like, he doesn't believe a word of what he's saying. He's just regurgitating it. He doesn't believe that. That's not who he is. Or that's not who she is. She doesn't believe that.
Yeah.
And, you know, we've sort of, especially in the beginning, when you're trying to like figure out what you want to say, you become, you know, I've done that before too, where I'm just like, I wasn't getting laughs because people knew that wasn't who I was.
You have to believe.
I was being who I thought that they wanted me to be.
That's actually kind of good advice, actually, because I've figured like the past year I got to have more energy and I got to be more performative, but actually also I have to believe in what I'm really actually doing and have to be fully committed to what I'm saying, which is actually, I should probably write that down. Believe.
And to know yourself. So there's things like what we were talking about with Drew and Benton is a good example, but like sometimes somebody is just like a freaking like, I'm weird, so sometimes I have to like lean into the fact that I'm weird. It's not necessarily apparent to people when I walk on stage until I like show them like, hey, I'm weird, or just say something goofy, or like
I've been leaning into the weird as of late.
You have to lean into your true attributes. Like Stephen Ferris is someone that's really
that's
good
who I was thinking of.
Weirdness.
Oh
like,
my god!
Because he's so good at it. I mean, it just to be good at leaning into something, or like I noticed that I like get more laughs when I just say something mean because I think I'm like naturally kind of a mean person. So I say like people know that that's just in my head. Like it, you know, it just. I think when you show people who you are and you frame it around a joke that's like intelligent or interesting, then they tend to laugh more, or like appreciate it more.
Steven, before I forget this, he was the one I was like thinking of for a second. I haven't seen him in a while, but the one time, it was like my first year of doing stand-up. I'll never forget this. Me, Nick Michelson, and I think TC at the time, we were at Stab, and we were just talking. And I was like, yeah, I might do this joke, da-da-da. What are you going to talk about? And he's like, I might just talk about ceiling fans. And we just like, oh, haha. He went up there, his entire 5-minute set, he talked about ceiling fans and was murdering. Straight up murdering. You could tell he was just looking at it, and he just was saying the most craziest shit, and I fucking loved it. I never forgot that. I just forgot what his last name was until you said it.
Yeah, and he leans into the weirdness. He's very unique, so he's always somebody that's so different from the rest of the crowd. He doesn't work in every facet. I've seen him walk into a situation where maybe he's not for everyone, but I am always impressed by him because he never lets that deter him. Like when you watch people that aren't used to bombing or haven't bombed a lot, or they're bombing and they freak out and start like panicking a little bit, he's always cool as a cucumber. And that's part of his genius too, awesome. Because it doesn't matter what venue he's at or whether or not people are into it. It's always gonna be his thing.
I saw him do a roast battle where he was supposed to roast this girl. Instead, he just made jokes about Owen Wilson.
I don't know him that much.
It, or did he not admit?
Yeah, they liked it. I mean, he almost won. He didn't. But the judges were like, well, I mean, he didn't really make jokes about your opponent, so we got to give it to your opponent. But I enjoyed it.
I don't know him personally, but every time I've seen him, he's just he has killed me because he just, like you said, leans it. That's my favorite. Is like my favorites are like Robin Williams and Steve Martin, and they're weird. They do weird shit. That's always been my favorite. I love the silly wackiness. No one does that too much.
He's a hot guy too.
Oh yeah.
I think it's hard to because you got to learn to bomb.
Yeah.
Because that's very unique. Like when you're unique, sometimes you're niche too, which means you're not for everyone.
Yeah.
So it's almost like being the opposite of someone like Kevin Hart or Joe Coy, where they're selling out all these stadiums and, can relate to most people. But then you're someone like Andy Kaufman, where never sold out a stadium, but is definitely memorable in his own right.
Right.
But he had to learn how to deal with people hating his guts too.
Oh yeah.
So I think that's something that's a very long-term thing to have to get comfortable with.
Hate's just another form of love, right? That's what everybody says when they're hated. It's just another form of love, really.
Sure.
Sure. I don't know. Hey, I want to talk about your show I saw you do at the at Laughs Unlimited. I think it was a couple months ago or last month. I still have the cards to it. 1 Degree of Separation. I thought this was a really cool ass show because it was just like you guys did your stand up, you did your sets, and then afterwards it was like therapy. Afterwards you all got on stage, did a Q&A, talked about depression and anxiety and hopefully not suicide. Tell us about those shows. Those are cool ass shows. I like them.
Yeah, they're great shows. They're put on and designed by the comedian Brad Bonner from Sacramento. And basically, after the pandemic, he came through and said, I want to talk about depression, suicide, anxiety, and I want to do it with funny people because a lot of funny people I know struggle with those things. And so he went and he talked to a lot of psychologists, counselors, other depressed people, mental health professionals, etc., and came up with those 5 questions, which off the top of my head, I have to think you're going to have to help me a little bit. But one of them's like,
I got him.
What does your depression feel like?
Yep.
What do others do that makes it worse?
Yes.
What do you do that makes it worse?
Uh-huh.
What do you do that makes it better? And what do other people do that makes it better?
That's it. You got them all
right?
5.
Okay,
yeah,
sweet.
Yeah.
Nice.
Man, I want to watch that.
And so the idea is every comedian comes on stage and they do just a 5-minute set. It's very basic, like introduction, like this is who I am, these are my jokes. You kind of get a general idea of everything.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, it's usually 3 people with Brad, 3 comedians with Brad, and they come out on stage and he moderates using those 5 questions. And then you can I've been fortunate enough to be on the panel with people that like don't feel this need to like perform. They just feel a need to be like honest. And then that's when I find like people will be naturally funny. And you form your stock questions if you've been on the show a couple times. Like the analogy that I do about the Hulk is generally the answer I give for the last question.
Yeah.
And so it's been a really fun thing to be a part of. I always try to agree to do the show when he asks me to be on. He has like rotating comedians and he really wants to make sure that it's good. So beforehand, he has everyone have dinner together to kind of develop a comfort level and rapport. Yeah. So that you can kind of get some fellowship with people and talk about, you get an idea of like, I think the dinners are nice because you get an idea of where someone's like boundaries are. Some people are very like open about every experience that they've had with their depression and anxiety, and some people are a little more hesitant to like really give a lot of detail.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what the purpose of the dinner serves, is so that you kind of get an idea of that so that you're not figuring those things out on stage. Okay. And it's really great. I think it's one of the favorite shows that I do because afterwards you always have a lot of people come up to you and tell you about their own experience. That's exactly why it's called 1 Degree of Separation, is because either the person themselves or someone that they know struggles with depression and anxiety or has attempted suicide. And so I've had, people come up to me and say, I don't know, like as a mom, or as a mom, they don't know how to help their children, or as a mom that has depression, how they navigate that while trying to raise children in healthy environments. For some people like Sydney Steigert's, who's a little bit younger, like a lot of teenagers come up and really like are grateful for the advice that they give to them. And so I find that there's like somebody on the panel that an audience member relates to. And so it's always really fun. I always feel full after we do the show. It is hard sometimes to do the show like sequentially a lot because I think afterwards you feel a little like tired because you're kind of, you know what I mean? Like it's fulfilling experience, but I do think sometimes it's drained being so vulnerable in front of people. So I I tend to not do it too much back to back.
It's a very
it's a great show.
It's a very open and honest show. I wrote down this because I remember being there. I'm not sure it was you or Luke Soing that said this, that sometimes you guys might have an issue of, as somebody put it, catastrophize.
Yeah, that was Luke. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a situation. So before you do it, you immediately think, yeah, that's not going to go well. It's going to do this. It's going to do shitty. Which is sometimes how I place myself. I'm always thinking of the worst possible thing. You're trying to avoid bad things or wrong choices, but at the same time, you're kind of lowering your morale for the future for some kind of event or show. I thought that was a great bit of advice. Like, try to not catastrophize things. I know with you had revealing stuff about, well, bad relationships and not using the razor right.
right.
I just not cutting garlic with the razor. Not using what the razor should be. You know what I'm talking about, Jordan. Which is like,
yes,
oh shit. Well, I mean, it happens.
Fuck you, Mark. Hey, Mark's like, Jordan knows what I'm talking about.
You know what I'm getting at.
I've heard about this show a lot, and I've always loved it, and I really would love to come out and watch it, like whenever the next one is. Because I've heard about it, and then Mark told me that he went to it. I'm like, oh, like that show's back. I haven't seen it, heard about it in a while.
It felt like comedy and therapy afterwards. That's what it honestly felt like. No bullshit.
I need that.
Yeah. The show that you came to that night too, I think that was like the biggest crowd that they had at Laughs for that show, particular show.
It was,
and they do like churches and high schools and.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
You can get those little bastards laughing on the rafters. That's when you know you made it. You know.
Well, yeah. I mean, it makes sense to go to high schools and stuff too because, I mean, like that's when my issues began. I could trace it back to high school, or that's when you're like feeling all of these things as a teenager, and you don't know how to. And maybe you have parents that have no idea, or are supportive, or not supportive, or you know what I mean. It's always easier to hear from somebody else that's not like part of your circle, I think, sometimes, especially when you're a teenager.
No judgment.
You want to listen to anybody but your parents.
High school is one giant POD song, you know?
Yeah. You could say like the Smiths, one giant Smiths song on another level.
Yeah.
You should do that, like find a sad analogy for every genre of music.
My entire playlist.
High school is a Cure song or whatever.
It's a Hank Williams, song. Yeah. That's what fucking high school is.
Like junior year was very Tammy Wynette centered.
I got the listed things to take care of yourself for self-care, okay? We're going to see if we do any of these or not. This is from the paper from the show.
Okay.
Get enough sleep.
I tried to, because I have to. If I don't sleep, I go crazy.
Next question.
Okay, next question as well for me. My sleep schedule has been fucked.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, Jordan, you're fucked with this one. Maintain proper nutrition.
Fuck you, okay? Hey, I have been 1 month. You know how okay. The reason why I say
1 month without chips. That's his new
chips and soda and energy drinks. I've quit all of it. It's been over a month.
Right.
Oh no. Okay? That one's the hard one for me too. I sympathize with you because I'm like junk food is like my comfort.
Well, the problem with me,
some people drink or whatever. Like I'm junk food. Binge eating.
My main problem is I don't eat food. Like I'll wake up, I'll go to work, and then I'm like, oh, I'm on my lunch break. I buy a bag of chips and a soda, and then that's all I eat for the whole day.
So you're a snack. You like to snack.
That's all I do is snack and not eat food. So that was my New Year's resolution.
Well, Jordan, you look like you don't eat well. Rhoda looks like she has like spinach and kale every day. So
fuck you, Mark.
That's what I want you to believe. I do eat spinach and kale, but then I also jam it with like flaming hot Cheetos and like donuts. So it's about balance.
I mean, you're Hispanic. You gotta have flaming hot Cheetos. I mean, what the fuck? Come on.
Flaming hot Takis. Yeah.
Those are the better
ones. Oh, I miss Takis so much.
I got those in the pantry right now. Those are the better ones.
Nice.
All right. Exercise regularly.
I generally have to because that's the only way I get my rage issues out.
Nice. I like that. That's a great answer.
I need to exercise more.
Yeah. My body's gone to shit. I'm skinny fat. Maintain social support.
No.
What does that mean?
I isolate so bad.
Oh.
If you venture out, you talk to other people about your feelings and that kind of stuff.
No.
Jordan? No? A little bit? No. You have a fiance.
I mean, yeah, but I can't give her all the damn. Like, she's like, hey, I had a long day at work. I'm like, great, I want to kill myself, sweetheart. Let's talk about it.
Fair
Like,
enough.
We have our moments, but I'm not gonna I feel this every single day. I'm not gonna just ruin her. You know what I mean?
All right, number 5. Find hobbies. We have too many hobbies, right? We're doing a comedy on the side.
Comedy is the hobby.
Yeah, that's the fucking.
We have that. I think we all check that box.
Well, that's what. Okay, wait. What would podcasting, making YouTube videos and stuff like it's all comedy related? Does that still count?
Yeah,
as
you're
a hobby?
creator. You're creating shit. Yeah, you're creating shit.
I think content creator.
Then yeah.
Number 6. Pamper yourself. I mean, I'm drinking a beer right now.
Treat yourself.
What do you mean pamper? Like treat yourself? Like
treating yourself, doing spa, whacking off. I don't know, watching a movie. I don't know, whatever. Treating yourself.
I'll go to Disney here and there.
It's just not whack off at a spa while watching a movie.
I mean, if you do it underneath like the jacuzzi, nobody's seeing.
The jacuzzi.
Yeah, I tried to do that. Sometimes that gets me not jacking up in a jacuzzi, but sometimes the treat yourself things gets me in a little trouble. Sometimes I'm spending up too much money.
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, you got to do it. I mean, where else are you going to do with money? Save it? Come on. Yeah. Number 7.
Provide my child with a better life? Come on, get out of here.
Who cares about the future? What are they going to do? I mean, we're all going to live in
college? No, thanks.
We're all going to live in bum world in 20 years. I mean, we're all going to be, it's like going to be Mad Max pretty soon. So,
yeah.
Yeah, who cares? Number 7, keep your mind sharp.
Yes, I do that. I love learning. I'm always trying to learn something. I'm in school right now too, so that's like.
What are you in school for, if you don't mind me asking?
No, I don't mind at all. I'm getting my master's degree in. It's gonna sound so pretentious, but it's leadership, innovation, and change within organizations. So it's kind of like a business degree, a little bit.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, everything that sounds good for your future kind of sounds pretentious. So don't worry about it. It's okay to be a little bit pretentious. It's fine.
Yeah.
That's not pretentious. It's pretentious if you're like, I'm better than you. Like
yeah. Exactly.
I'm in grad school because part of my day job is changing a lot, and so I knew that it was kind of time. And because I work at the university, I get tuition remission.
Oh, hell yeah.
So it kind of felt like it would be a waste not to take advantage of it. But I will say there's a couple things that have surprised me about going back to grad school in my 30s after being out of school now for a long time, is that when I graduated with my undergrad, it was right when people were starting to bring their laptops to class. And so it was kind of this weird, like right at the beginning of a migration into like completely digital, like education. And so now it's funny because I like have to make a citation or something, and I can just put it into a site and that citation will be generated for me and I don't have to think about it. Or I tried that new Chat GPT thing. And that was like amazing. I didn't use it to write papers, but I used it to like get some ideas about stuff just to play around with Chat GPT and see. So that was cool. It was something that didn't exist prior to the last time that I was in school. But the best thing that I have noticed about going back to school is that I've been a comedian now, and it's made me so much of a better writer, which I didn't expect.
Right.
And so like I'm writing papers, but you know how when you write a joke and you're like, I got to cut the fat out of that joke because that's not working anymore. I've got to punch this part up to see if I can like find a little nugget to make people laugh around this part. And so I find myself doing the same thing with my papers now, saying like, I'm cutting the fat. I don't need that in here. I think I can enhance this part to make it a little bit more interesting, not so flat. And so it's interesting to me. That's made me a better writer, which I wouldn't have ever thought.
I could take this part, link it together, and now I have a connected paragraph here. If I have these other paragraphs to my my essay, and I do this, and I make sure I end on that. And,
I put a callback here.
Yeah.
So I was really surprised at that. I was like, that's awesome.
I mean, callback just means story arc, right? Really? When you think about it.
Yeah, basically. So what about you, Mark? What have you done to keep your mind sharp?
Okay, I've been trying to write there's this one Facebook group where it's like joke writing, but they give you one single word, and it's like, what I gotta write a joke with the word words. One time it was words, and I came up with a really good joke with it. So that's keep my mind sharp. I don't read much. I'm a degenerate. I watch a lot of porn, and I play video games, so that's not good. But the rest of it, though, that's how I keep my mind sharp, is trying to write new and crazier stuff. I don't know why I'm admitting that on air right now. Okay, number 8. Have the right attitude.
Depends on the day.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
That's not an enthusiastic thumbs up.
When I'm at my healthiest, I'm like, this is great. This is so amazing. Let's talk through it. When I hate myself, I'm like, everything's fucked. Life is horrible. I hate myself. I haven't been able to look in the mirror for 2 days. Fuck it all.
That actually made me think of something. So lately, as I talk on the podcast with Mark and stuff, I have depression and anxiety and all that crap. And whenever I'm depressed, I kind of rant on Twitter a lot. And I'm like, Jesus, my Twitter is so depressing. So I went through my Twitter the other day and I started deleting.
I have to call him sometime.
Hang on, I'm going to get there. I deleted all my bad tweets, unless it's a joke. But, like, all my bad tweets, I'm like, for now on, I'm reading this book. What's it called? It's called The Secret Art of Not Giving a Fuck.
Yeah. I just finished that.
I just
got it right here.
Oh, fuck! No way! I just started it, so don't.
Got it right here.
Mind meld.
But one thing I was reading is, I don't think it was in that one though. But I'm trying to work on, like, I beat myself up a lot.
Okay, I gotta say, I haven't read in a long time. There's dust everywhere, so now I gotta fucking.
Anyways,
give it away.
I'm reading that in another book, but I'm trying to work on myself. Yada yada, whatever. And one thing I read was the more you talk negatively, you know what I mean, the more you're going to feel bad. So anytime I feel depressed, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to post something positive. So on my Facebook, if you guys saw, I put, love you all, have a great day. And I went to bed. And then I woke up the next day to like 20 missed calls from my dad, my mom, my best friend, and they thought I killed myself.
Oh
no.
And I was like, no, I just wanted to be positive. And I said, have a great day. And they're like, we thought you were done. It was 3 a.m. when you posted that. We thought you were gone.
Jordan being hella different right now. What the fuck?
So I was like,
this isn't like him.
I was
just wrong.
It was so funny. My mom's like, I thought you, like, she called my fiance. My fiance was at work. She's like, what? She goes, is Jordan okay? She goes, he's asleep. Why? She's like, I thought he killed himself. And I was like,
she's like, asleep forever? Yeah. Or just for now?
Well, that was my favorite when I was telling Mark about my depression. He tells me, this is Mark's advice. He said, go to God. And I was like, I'm trying, Mark. And he's like, no,
not like that. No.
Oh shit!
Go to church.
There's got to be. That's like a joke. No, there's like a little joke in there.
Say something.
No.
Okay.
I was just saying. There's like a joke in there. There's something there.
Oh yeah.
I think really good sleep, because I've gotten like 10 hours of sleep the last couple of days. I feel it's like microdosing on suicide, right? It's just like, you know what I'm getting at.
It's
just
practicing for death.
Yeah, it's just not all the way, but you're still like, I don't want to be around for a while.
I'm just imagining Mark's like, Mark's laying in bed. He's like, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna sleep.
Fucking do it.
I'm gonna fucking do it.
That does it. I'm gonna leave this note right here.
Oh God.
That'd be.
Oh shit. The last two. Okay, process your emotions. I don't even know what the hell that means. I guess we could. Whatever.
All I do is process my emotions. I'm like, you're sad. You're anxious. You're sad.
I don't know what the fuck. I'm crossing this one off. I don't like. Okay, this is the one I'm crossing off on the list. I'm not doing that one. All right, number 10. Maintain a spiritual practice. What? Like, research shows a lifestyle including religion, spirituality. I can't say that word. Is generally a healthier lifestyle.
Go to God.
So believing in a higher power. Anybody here? Anybody religious? No, not you.
I think it's. Go ahead, Jordan.
I was just gonna say I believe in a higher power, but I don't know if I'd necessarily say Jesus. But like, you know what I mean? I believe there's something. I you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Don't let my mom know.
Rhoda, do you think there's something out there?
Yeah, I mean, because I think even if you're like a militant atheist, that doesn't explain like why we're here.
Exactly.
Like, what does this all mean? And I would say that, like, the subtle art of not giving a fuck actually encouraged me to, like, put down the self-help books for a while, because I realized that I had been, like, reading so many self-help books, and just the quote that you were talking about, like, the more you talk about something, the bigger the problem seems. Like, to say that maybe sometimes you need to take a step back from, like, the internal gaze to really just try to experience things or put things in action. But I think anything I read, whether it's like a self-help book or an artist book, like The Artist's Way, or AA, or NA, or Al-Anon, all have the same thing of, like, trying to believe in something that's greater than yourself. And I think that so much of that is because it doesn't necessarily have to be like Jesus or God or anything like that, but the idea that there's something bigger than you enables you to be humble. And I think that only through humility that you're able to really kind of, like, write or create or be a good neighbor or a good partner. Does that make sense?
No, that makes perfect
Hopefully
sense.
that's not too frou-frou.
Do you look at it as, like, hopefully being part of a better community is how you put it?
Yeah, and I just think, like, I converted to Catholicism when I got married.
Still with
and well, my son is going through first communion now, so we've had to start going back to work. You know, it's one of those things where the grandparents want you to do first communion, so if you ever have kids, you'll see sometimes you just have to make people happy. And so I will say that I wasn't necessarily the most excited about having to go back to mass weekly, but it is a time of, like, that I'm forced to really sit down and, like, be quiet. And so when they're saying, like, sitting with your thoughts or being reflective about it, or to say, like, whatever higher power that you have, to be like, please help me to, like, have the patience that I need going into this week, or help me with this issue that I'm having, of just, like, saying, if you're not asking a higher power to at least acknowledge the fact that you're going into, like, a difficult week, or that you're having a difficult time, that you're depressed, or that you really would like the ability to write the ultimate fart joke. You know, how am I creating space in my life? You don't even have to pray. It's just it's taking a time and quietly and saying, like,
I need a higher being to help me out with this.
What can the universe provide to me to help me write the best fart joke?
God, give me the strength so I can give others the pleasure of my fart joke. I want to do it.
How can I utilize my goal, my gift of giving people the ability to laugh?
Yeah.
It's going to happen.
The universe, please send me the muse that's going to enable me to be inspired by this fart joke.
You just inspired Mark.
I'm going to go to great lengths to crop dust others to create this ultimate fart joke.
Hang on, I'll be right. You talk to my cat's, like, scratch. Hang on.
I'll talk more about fart.
Hang on.
I believe. Okay.
Talk more about your fart joke.
I'm not the most spiritual, but I think outside of me, with the powers to be, I can do this.
I think you can. And I think a lot of times, like, look, I was raised religious. I consider myself a spiritual person. Was there things within religion that I don't agree with or that I have a problem with? Of course.
What about the confessional booths, right?
Any establishment. I don't even do like, I'm a bad Catholic, and I was a bad Pentecost before I converted to Catholicism, because there's just things, and I understand, like, a real Catholic would be like, you can't pick and choose. Like, I get that, but
I kind of do.
if you're like also approaching it from the perspective of, like I was just saying, like, this is an environment in which allows me to take an hour out of my week to really sit down and think about, like, how I want to approach being a better person, or how I'm going to approach the challenges that I have in my life, and in regards to, like, believing in something bigger than myself. When I think about it like that, it's easier to digest, and I'm sure people have a problem with that, but that's how I have to process stuff. And so I think that when you're talking about like inspiration or like taking guidance from the universe or higher power or God or whatever, people always like pump the brakes. That's why some people have a hard time with AA, because they can't reconcile the idea of like they reconcile like higher power equals God. But if you really just try to think about it in the context of like trying to think of something outside of myself or bigger than myself to be inspired or inspire others or make others laugh or whatever, then I think that it goes down a lot easier. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just full of shit. I don't know.
It's okay. I mean, you want to. I mean, you want to believe in something. It helps you with your life. It gives you a good goal, and for your family, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
I mean,
wrong.
and Catholic Mass is fun, you know, because you got those stained glasses everywhere. You get coffee and donuts afterwards. It's fun time.
I grew up Christian.
Catholicism is cool because it's like, I grew up. I think you missed what I was telling. I grew up in a Pentecost church. And
it's a 4-hour mass.
Oh, so long, so long, so many more rules.
Yeah.
Oddly,
I like it when they make you go up and down on the pew, and you kneel down. You get the fucking step, and you got to kneel. It's almost like a workout. It's kind of cool.
What's a workout is when they're like in the middle of a song, and you have like a fucking choir going in, and you have those dudes shaking and running around. Like the Holy Ghost goes through them,
the Holy Spirit,
and they're just running. Like there was this like 400-pound guy I remember, and he would run laps like around the church, and I'm like, dude, he's gonna be ripped by the end of the year. Like if he keeps coming to church every Sunday, like
he probably that wasn't the Holy Spirit. That was just coke. He was probably coked up before he went to fucking mass.
Yeah, God, I feel like a Pentecost going to a Catholic church for the first time would say something like, where's all the tambourines? Or why is it so quiet in here? And like a Catholic going into like a Pentecost church would be like, where are all the gaudy statues? Like,
where's the painted glass? Where I want some wine.
You guys are inside. Why are we inside of a strip mall right now?
Fun fact: when I got baptized, I almost seen God.
What?
Really?
Because I was about 5 years old. And the tank they had to baptize you was too deep. It was like 6 feet deep or whatever. Not 6 feet, probably like 4 feet. But, you know, I was a little kid. So the pastor didn't know what to do, so he got a pan, like a big old pot, and he had me stand on it. And then he was like, all right, I'm going to dump your head underwater to baptize you. And I was like, okay. When he pushed me, my feet pushed the thing, and he just started drowning me. But no one knew. So he's like praying over me, and I'm like just drowning and dying. And literally, they're like, "Okay, you can come up."
This kid must be evil.
They're like, "He can come up now," and I was just still underwater, and they had to jump in and get me.
That's
my god, that must be traumatizing.
Yes, pour a cup of water over your fucking.
No. They do that when you're a baby, but when you're getting baptized, you got either the dunk. But I was too young for the dunk, so they just.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know.
I didn't do the dunk. They just poured water in my head.
You said you're Catholic.
When I was 10.
Because Christians
Catholicism is the best one. Damn it! I'm just saying that right. Look, I know that sounds terrible to say, but
because Christians want you to choose when to be baptized into the church, right? Because I told you I converted to get married, but I had never been baptized before because the Pentecost they want you to choose when to be baptized, and I had never done it before. And so I did have to get baptized in like a tiny little basin. I was like 26 at the time. It was kind of funny.
You see, Mark, you only got this baptized. I got it all and inside of me baptized.
He was immersed. That's why Christians catch the Holy Spirit, because it's their whole virus. Catholics just a little bit.
There you go.
Perverted, but Jordan, when he got baptized, he got nice and fucking wet.
Mark, I was a child.
Do you guys watch Righteous Gemstones?
I heard it's great.
My god, that show was so fucking hilarious. If you've ever been in like a Pentecost church or something, like I just watch it and crack up.
Is it on Netflix or anything?
It's on HBO.
HBO Max.
HBO Max. Yeah.
I'll give it a watch.
That show is so fucking hilarious. I was just thinking about there's like a scene. There's like a couple baptism scenes that had me cracking up.
I know Eastbound and Down, the guy that stars in it, and then the guy who wrote it and directed. They all work on that show, and Eastbound and Down is one of the best fucking shows ever. Shit. Hey, we're running out of time. I have a series of this or that questions. We're gonna rifle through them. Okay, so you got to pick one.
I'm ready.
All right, you got to attend one of these things: a Scientology ceremony or a Juggalo concert. Which one?
Oh shit, Scientology.
Jordan.
Probably
only because the people are prettier.
I mean, if at least if we go to Scientology, we could probably see Tom Cruise. That'd be kind of cool.
Guys, I'm gonna go with a Juggalo concert because I respect them more, and it's gonna be a fun fucking time. And I could be hooked in life if I go to the Scientology bullshit. I could lose all my money and just be a part of the cult. So that's how I look at it.
Well,
all right. Okay, you got to pick one. One of the goats. Pick one of the goats here. Joan Rivers or Roseanne Barr?
Joan. Do I have to clarify why?
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm. I would pick Joan because Roseanne is an amazing innovator in herself and pioneer, etc. Great comic. I love them both. But I would say Joan because she was one of the first. If you've ever watched Marvelous Miss Maisel, you see she kind of came up at a time when, like, I think she paved the way for people like Roseanne Barr. She talked shit. She didn't give a fuck. You know, she and she got like totally blackballed by other comedians in the industry, and she still was around forever. And
the OG.
I mean, she was a tough bitch. You couldn't keep her down.
I would say Roseanne because I was raised on Roseanne. My family would either have Roseanne, Reba, fucking. My family is white trash rednecks, but so that was all that was on.
That's more whiter than watching Reba, man. Fucking that
dude.
Show.
The theme song is burned in my fucking brain because they would leave my stepdad would fall asleep watching the DVD. They had the DVD box set, so the DVD screen would play, like the play screen, and it just would replay the song over and over and over. So I'd have to wake up and go turn off the fucking TV. I'm a survivor.
Yeah, I love Roseanne too. Roseanne's great.
Yeah, I'll pick Roseanne.
I'm going with Roseanne. I respect Joan Rivers, and she's the true originator. She's the true innovator. But Roseanne, that's my girl. That's my broad right there. You know, something about her. She's just my girl. I like the cut of her jib.
The laugh.
The last one.
And she loves comics too. Like she would just give it like, "Yo, you want to write for my show? Okay, I'll give you a shot."
See, that's awesome.
About her too, which is really cool. Yeah.
All right, last one. The most important question. I ask this question all the time, Jordan. Creep van or casting couch? You got to pick which one. Creep van or casting couch?
I would casting couch because then I'd at least be able to give someone coordinates of exactly where to find me.
Yes. Ryan Holloway said it best. Creep van, you know it's going to be awful. Casting couch, it might lead to a good role in a big movie or a TV show.
Well, yeah, right. It's going to lead to something better, and you're hoping that at least the guy that or the person that's taking advantage of you at least has some kind of connections. If he's special enough to have his own office with a couch in it.
That's true.
What if it's just like, hey, here's our casting couch. All right, you get to be on this show on Amazon Prime.
And our casting couch. Are you comfortable? Would you like some tea?
Oh, wow, this is awesome.
Everything's also going to be well lit, so you could see if there's anything. You know what I mean? If you're in a creep van in the dark, you can't see what's going on.
You could die. Yeah, this might be it. Yeah.
Well,
all right. Be like, as someone that's had sex in both places.
I don't have sex.
All right, Rhoda, you've been fantastic. This is the end of the show. What do you got going? You got upcoming shows? What's your social media stuff? What do you got going on?
Well, this Friday, I'm going to be on your show at the Lodi Bricks and Hops. So I'm excited about that because that's going to be in our hometown of Lodi. I'll be hosting at Laughs in a couple of weeks. I have all that stuff posted. If you just follow me on my social media, everything is at Rhoda Ramone.
Sick. Bricks and Hops, it's the rowdiest show you can go to. We got crazy crowds. It's completely full over there. You never know what you're going to get, but they're good people. We got that coming up this Friday. After that, I got the Persuasion in Modesto. That's March 10th. Whoops, looking at the wrong thing. The Callback Bar over at Punchline. I'm going to be at that show February 16th. Luna's Cafe, February 24th. That's about it. And then I got Graffiti Comedy in March on March 18th. The show I'm putting together. It's going to be a fantastic show. Lineup's going to be fucking amazing. And that's about it. Follow me at Madman Maple you're going to be on that one as well. Follow me at Madman Maple on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok.
Tomorrow I have an eye doctor appointment. I'm kidding. No, I really do. No, the 31st, Mark, did you say this one? Me and Mark are going to be at Soli's Bar and Grill in Rockland, California. Woohoo. February 9th, I'll be at Five Eye Brewing in Ceres, California. And then February 25th, I'll be at Hatchet's in Twain Harte, California. And then March 18th.
Bring your axe.
I mean, sure. Bring your axe. It's an axe throwing place. I did it once before. It was actually a really good crowd, really fun time. So I'm happy that they invited me back. Cool. And then, March 18th, graffiti comedy in Lodi, California. And then Finnegan's open mic I'm hosting. It's an open mic, so don't get your hopes up for it to be amazing. But February 2nd and February 16th. And also, go to my YouTube channel and check out my skit podcast, Bombarded. It's less than 10 minutes each episode. It's completely scripted, but it's stupid and fun. Check it out. That's all.
You know, it's not stupid. Lodi's own Rhoda Ramone. You've been a fun time.
Yes.
Thanks for having me, guys. I hope I was interesting enough for the episode.
No, you're great.
You want to know something? We've been doing 45-minute podcasts. We're at almost an hour and a half.
That's great.
We were having that much fun. I didn't even realize what time it was, and Mark said that. I was like, oh, shit, we're over an hour. So
Rhoda, awesome. I'm sorry, because you're Lodi's own. When you told me, hey, I lived in Lodi like a couple months ago, I was like, ooh.
I know. I was telling everyone, I'm like, how dare these new comics not have me? I'm the queen of this town. Maybe you should get out more, talk to people.
I didn't know, so I was just like, ooh.
So
I was like, yeah, I better put her on something. And Kiefer vouched for you too. He's like, you're not putting on Rhoda Ramone. She's been here the whole time. I'm like, okay, fine.
That's a really good Kiefer impression.
It all goes back to the 1 degree of separation questions. So we're getting there anyway. Friday will be fun.
That will be a fun time.
I might do I have a show Friday? If I don't have a show, I might just come up and watch. So
Robert Berry has the guest spot though. He already asked for it a long time ago.
That's fine.
So.
That's fine. Yeah. I can't support. Fine, I won't support you. If that's what you want. If you don't want me to support you, Mark.
I don't know. Just show up, hang out. I don't know. But I don't know.
Anyways, follow Maple-baum on everything and give us 5-star rating on Spotify and iTunes. Any last words, guys?
Rhoda
Thanks
Ramone.
for having me, guys.
Thank you for being on. Bye.